So
have I got to start speaking?
Well, if you want, well, just to explain.
Well, just on the subject of Bob Godfrey, I mean, I knew Bob a bit, and when I was making my first films, I had a little space in his studio. And I think, I don't know who remembers his little book he did, How to Do Animation. He did a series on telly. I mean, it was quite a long time ago. But it really was about just drawing on paper and making it as simple as you possibly could and concentrating on the story. And I think that was quite a big influence on me. And even when I did my Pond Life series, it was felt pen on paper and coloured in, all traditionally. Not when we did the series, but when we did the pilot. When they were at Channel 4 doing the research as to whether it was a good idea to make the series or not, they tested the pilot on various age groups and men and women and stuff. And one of the comments someone made was, "This is crap, it looks like felt pen drawn on paper." Which it was. So, yeah, I very much came from that school of, I mean, we made stuff on film, and you got a rostrum camera, and you kind of made it up. You did the sound, and then you just, you know, you couldn't have complicated backgrounds. So I think my style has continued from those early days of just doing what I could on paper, basically. So maybe doing a bit of spot colour, not having any complicated backgrounds. And Bob always said that if a door slams, you don't need the door anymore, so you don't have to keep tracing it. So, you know, you're just concentrating on the story. So I think that is what I've always tried to do. So the first thing I'm going to show is the most recent thing that I've done. And you'll be very relieved to hear that they're all 5 to 7 seconds long and there's only 5. Because when I was here last time, not that I wasn't enjoying the work, but if anything had been 7 minutes long or something. So 7 seconds long, I think that's quite good. So do you want to put it on?
I'll put it on, yeah.
These are some little things that I did for a breakthrough breast cancer, target breast cancer, just on a little tiny budget.
Yeah, I think this t-shirt sounds
Captain, you don't need to film the films.
Oh, all right.
That was pretty smooth,
I
wasn't
haven't really
it?
got anything to say about those, really.
Oh, okay. Where were they shown?
On you know, screens on the tube and stuff. That's why they did the ones with the writing.
Oh, right.
They
okay.
weren't on telly. I think they were on the internet.
Right,
I
right.
don't really know.
Now, I recognised both those voices, and there was a figure standing on the right some of the time. Do you want to say anything about the actress of that character?
I mean, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was me. And the other one was Sarah, who I went to college with, who has been doing my voices since we were at college.
And is she now Nanny Elf in Ben and Holly's Magic Kingdom?
I think so, I don't know. And she's in Peppa Pig as well.
Yeah.
She owes her career all to me, though.
Yeah.
It's partly laziness, and also I think that I've always had a bit of a thing about, I don't want to use famous people to do voices. I want to use people that I think have got the right voices, and I want it to be quite natural. I don't like silly voices for animation, because I think if you do something quite simple like I do, then to have quite a realistic voices is quite funny.
Yeah.
And also because I'm trying to tell sort of observational, truthful stories.
Yeah.
I don't see the point in having silly voices, and also I don't see the point in employing people just to have a famous name, which is not that difficult to do if you're doing something for the telly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get I don't know, I can't think of anybody. Dave Lamb from Come Down With Me or something. So I've always used friends and family. I mean, not everyone can do it, but I mean, Sarah was always brilliant at doing sort of natural.
Yeah. But
speedy. You know.
Something that really singles your work out for me is your ear for dialogue and monologue and how people interact and so on, almost like a playwright's ear. It makes me think a little bit of Alan Bennett, particularly as you did a film about a bag lady.
I did.
So
I suppose I came to it from a sort of background of reading the Beano. I mean, I didn't particularly like animation as a kid. I watched Scooby-Doo and all that sort of stuff, but I wasn't like a mad fan of it. But I was quite a mad fan of the comics, the British comics like the Beano and the Beano, mainly because there were female characters that were quite interesting. There was Minnie the Minx, Beryl the Peril. Who's the other one?
It's a blow.
It's a blow.
Oh, hang on, there's another one. Oh, Pansy Potter, the Strong Man's Daughter.
Oh, I don't know.
I remember that.
But then I suppose when I got to my teens and I sort of was looking for the next, where was Beryl the Peril and Minnie the Mix grown up?
Yeah.
But they'd gone, and it was suddenly Pink and Jackie and
Patches.
Have You Got a Fella and Have You Got Greasy Hair, and it was all quite boring and not very funny. So I suppose I sort of, that was my influence really.
But
the sort of pictures and talking together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's quite a step on from the sort of physical humour of Beryl the Peril. I mean, your work
I don't know. There was some subtle wit in Beryl the Peril.
Okay.
There was actually. The bloke who wrote it was quite funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, her relationship with her dad was actually quite funny.
I'm afraid this
wasn't
isn't my
all physical. Anyway, blah blah blah. I mean, I suppose I just yeah, I think that's where it all came from, really.
Yeah, yeah. And do you want to say a little bit about how you actually got started physically animating, not just, where you were coming from humour-wise?
Oh, actually, why I did animation?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to do live action. I did do quite a lot of live action, but you had to get so organised to do live action. And I always felt slightly sort of like I'd have to say, I'd have to have finished scripts, and I'd have to ask people to help me, and I'd have to, get someone to do the sound. I'd have to book a day. And I just wasn't that kind of person. So in the end, it was easier for me to just go off into. I was doing fine art in Newcastle. It was easier for me to just go into my space and sort of do it secretly. Because all you've got to do is get a friend to record the sound with you, break it down, and then go in a corner and draw the pictures, and no one knows what you're doing. So I suppose it was quite a private, slight lack of confidence, I think, as well. I did make live action, but I always found it quite stressful.
Right.
And I think I like the drawing, and you can create your own little world, I suppose. Without having to worry about who's going to be in it and do they look right. It's just the voices.
Yeah.
And then there's a sort of universality about drawings.
But you're still
simple drawings that aren't particular people. They're like they're every man or every woman in a way.
You're still engaging with actors when you record the sound, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you're still, engaging with the outside world. It's not a completely solo thing.
No, and it's very important the way people say things. I mean, it's I am quite fussy about the way the lines are spoken. So I think it's very, very, very important to get that right, because obviously if you're trying to be funny as well, that's quite an important element.
Because I think this is a skill that you demonstrated very, very early on, if I may say, because a lot of people try to do what you do, and they record work that they feel is observational and pertinent and so on. They just don't get it right. Whereas with your films, it seems to have come, immediately.
Thanks. I don't know what to say.
Okay.
I mean, I have brought a very, very hairy film with me that I made at Newcastle Poly.
Do you want to show that next?
Well, I will show it just because I did actually get my first job on the back of this film. Technically, it's terrible. It's hairy, it's scratched. You can hear the tape recorder going on and off. But it's quite a good story. And when I left college and I was showing my show reel around, it was in the early days of Channel 4 again, where there wasn't just lots of animation funding. There was also funding for all sorts of interesting, wacky, public interest programmes. And they were always trying to do this thing of a current affairs programme for women, and they were usually awful. I shouldn't say that, but they commissioned me to make my first film. I was just out of college, based on this film you're about to see. And
Right.
they actually said, "Oh, can we show it?" I said, "Well, not really. No, because you've seen it. It's all hairy and scratchy." So I said, "Well, I'll make it again for you." And so that's how I got my first job, based on this. Which is anyway. I think we should show it. 'Cause
Okay.
It's,
I'm just thinking, if we're going to talk and show films, then I might try not putting the lights down, because then that'll probably be easier. How do you feel?
well, the intro is this is a few minutes long.
Oh, okay, we'll put the lights down.
Why, do you want to talk while the film's on?
No, not at all. I keep my mouth shut as long as I possibly can. I'm just meaning that if we're segueing seamlessly between
Well, because of all
speech
the
and...
going back to the...
Yeah, no, that was slightly
Is that just the
embarrassing.
lights? No, I was
It
really
was-
pleased
it was-
because it's normally me doing that. When I do teaching, I always make a
Well, I'm
terrible
here to
performance.
make the guests look good, so, Okay, well, shall we... do you want to pass me the disc? for the...
Oh, I thought you... Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, I get... Oh, yeah, great stuff. Do you want to say a little bit about this, what the title is?
This is when I decided to secretly go off in a corner and make a film, and I had this idea that I wanted to show how a sort of small yet tragic thing, it can be the reason why people end up being homeless. And it sounds quite a worthy idea, and I suppose it was quite a serious idea in a way. And this is the first thing not the first ever animation I made, it's the first thing I made on paper. I'd done sort of model stuff. And I just got an A4 pad with the holes in. I didn't know anything about, what are they called?
Peg bars.
Right, so I don't know if anyone's ever done this, but the pad is about that big, and as you turn the pages, obviously the holes move. So once I'd done all the drawings and I filmed it, it all sort of moves around like that. So it didn't really work. But I didn't really know what I was doing at all. I literally just made it up. Everyone kept saying, "What are you doing?"
You said I don't know.
Anyway, this is it. But that's at the beginning of the show reel.
Oh, is it not the right place?
No.
Ah,
We
okay.
had to go through to that place where we were before.
Oh, it's gone and right back to the beginning, right,
Yeah,
okay.
you
I'll
can
need
see the
to
show
skitter through this. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's scary, isn't it?
That's quite hairy.
Lovely hair.
I don't know how it got so hairy.
That got you your first TV gig.
Well, it did, yeah, weirdly, because I made that when I was doing my degree at Newcastle. And then I went to St Martin's and did a postgraduate film and video course.
Yeah.
And made lots of slightly posher stuff, but that was the one that got me my first job, yeah.
Right.
And then when I made it again, what happened was I made 4 films for these people, and I said, could I make another one first, which is one I made about hairdressing. And then when I made this one, they said, oh, can you not have any swearing in it? So, well, obviously, I mean, the swearing is quite important because the people that shout like that on the street that make you feel very embarrassed always swear like that. So we had to, she ended up saying things like, oh, bloody hell, and not even piss off. Yeah, so it just didn't work really. It just didn't work. But I made 4 for them, and they were my first 4 films. Yeah. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing basically when they said, "Can you go and make a film?" Because I'd done it at college. Just didn't know what a dope sheet was and everything. So it was quite a good lesson in. Well, first of all, learning what a dope sheet was and all that sort of stuff, and the rostrum camera and all that stuff. But also just in terms of length, because when I went, and I'll show the hairdressing one in a minute, I'd always wanted to make a film about a girl going to, so I feel like I've got my back to, either got my back to the
Shall I come and stand? I'll come and stand over there maybe. Would
well, I
that
could
be
sit
better?
back there, couldn't I?
Thing is, I then need to. I know.
Oh,
I'll stand it.
No, I'll just move. I'll go like that. Okay.
Just ignore me. I'll just.
No, it's fine. I just feel not very nice when I got my back to them.
I'll
Anyway.
come and stand over here. I'll come and stand over here.
That's good.
That's better, isn't it?
That's a good idea. And just quickly, I recorded this soundtrack. I wrote this script. I was really pleased with it. I recorded this soundtrack. I was really pleased with it. And I had to go, very, very low budget. I had to go in on a Sunday to some old funny editing place on Oxford Street above a shop. And I started cutting it down, and they said it had to be 3 minutes. And I was doing it all day, and I got it to 5 minutes. And I phoned them up and I said, is it all right if it's 5 minutes? I can't cut any more out of the script. And they said, no, it's got to be 3 minutes. And I can remember putting the phone down and going, putting my head in my hands and thinking, I can't do it. And then thinking, well, I've got to do it. So I just sat there, and I cut the whole of the front off, which I thought was really important, where she's deciding she's going to go and get a haircut. Then I looked for repetitive bits and chopped those out. Then I was taking tiny little bits out between words, which you'll probably be able to tell when you see it very fast. But I suppose the whole lesson I learnt was that I chopped 2 minutes off, and a few weeks later I couldn't even tell really what I didn't miss what I chopped off. So that was a really good lesson to me in that things in uni always can be a bit shorter than you think.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, that was quite hard actually, because I was nearly half of it. But it was really good, and then all the other ones I made were 3 minutes as well. So I just thought I'd quickly tell that sort of, script writing story, because I do think things are a bit long sometimes.
What would you like to show next?
I could show that hairdressing one.
Yeah, please.
In fact, I've got a whole... You won't have to keep swapping and changing because I've got most everything on here.
Okay, great.
I've got some commercials. I mean, I really wanted to show short things, but most of it is short. Except for Pond Life, sorry, you're taking it away from me then. Yeah, I've got some commercials, they're short.
But I think it'd be nice to show at least one thing that's a bit longer.
Really?
Now that you've whet our appetites with all these little...
Okay.
Right, so Alternative Fringe.
We can show that one on this fantastic person. I have realised actually when I watch my old films how many of them are about people being failures. I've got quite a few that just seem to be about people going, oh, I'm never going to do anything, oh, what's wrong with me?
Well, why don't we show Alternative Fringe?
Yeah, show
that's
that,
the
because
one
that's
that you've
quite
described.
yeah.
Do you mind awfully doing the lights?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
There we are.
Oh,
Excellent, excellent.
you.
Seamless once
Yes.
again. I'll come and stand over here again. So yeah, you produced 4 films for Channel 4.
Yeah, in that series, for that programme, yeah.
And what happened next?
Ooh. No, I went and worked in a health food shop
Right.
for a bit. Nothing really happened after that. And then I moved to Cardiff because I'd heard that they'd got good funding for animation. And so I met Chris Grace, who used to run S4C at some animation do. And I was with this really weird American bloke called Ron Diamond, who was really, hi, I'm Ron Diamond. Do you remember Ron Diamond? And he said to Chris Grace, why don't you give Candy some money to make films? And he said, well, if she moved to Cardiff, I would. So I moved to Cardiff, and then he was quite annoyed because I rang him up and said, oh, you said you'd give me some money if I moved to Cardiff. So he did. So I made 4 more films in that kind of thing, different lengths for some... It had to be in Welsh as well, that was quite easy. There's quite long words in Welsh, and obviously they're quite fast, so...
Did you have to learn Welsh?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't have to learn Welsh. And then I did the pilot for Pond Life while I was in Cardiff. For anyone who hasn't seen Pond Life, it was a... Channel 4 wanted to do some series, adult series, so I got commissioned to make a pilot, and Sarah Kennedy got commissioned to make a pilot for Cratston Villas at the same time. And we'd gone to college together, always quite competitive with each other, so it was quite good that we both got these commissions. But she never got me to do a voice in hers, you see. Whereas I got to do a voice in mine. Anyway, that's another subject. I'm only joking, we're the best of friends. No, we really are. But we had this sort of quite healthy competitiveness. I think it's quite good in life if you have a friend who, when they're doing something quite good, it sort of G's you up and you want to have a go at doing it as well. And it was always like that with us. And then I did the pilot, and then I waited ages and ages, and then the series happened about 3 years later. It all sounds quite zoomy, but actually there's a lot of gaps in between where you're unemployed or you don't think it's ever going to happen or blah blah blah. So, and then I made 13 episodes of Pond Life for Channel 4, and then, which we'll probably watch a bit of one or all of one. I mean, they're 11 minutes, which seems quite long. And then I did another series of Pond Life, which I really didn't want to do. They said, oh, would you want to do half hours? I really didn't. Because I don't think it's a good length, certainly not for that. But I felt like I had to say yes. Which sounds awful, isn't it? Because I felt lucky, but actually the half hours were very difficult and I didn't enjoy them. I don't think they really worked. I like the 11 minutes because it's really quite good for a sort of 3-act story, and also you can go a bit madder in a short thing, I think. Make quite mad things happen. It felt like a sketch, whereas the half hour I suddenly felt bogged down by the sitcom structure, stuff like that. Anyway, that's it.
You told me a very interesting story though about your second series of Pond Life, about the rendering. Didn't you tell me that the animation was farmed out?
Oh, it was all done in China, yeah.
Which does seem a hell
It was
of a...
quite good, but it just felt really weird. I mean, the first series was a nightmare because they had hardly any money and they employed all these college leavers. College leavers, that sounds awful, doesn't it? People are recently out of college. And there were some old blokes that have been doing it for ages, like Jeff Loynes. You know Jeff Loynes? Big beard. He plays Father Christmas when he's not animated. You know him? There was a couple of like that, but mostly everyone was very young and not very experienced, and I wasn't very experienced either. And they weren't very good. But we were making it all here. But the line was thick and thin, and we had loads and loads of problems with it. So when it was farmed out to China, it was actually all lovely, but sort of a bit bland in a funny sort of way. And I didn't like the idea that it went off, you know, and it was all very impersonal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it does seem an odd place for pond life, which is very familiar and, if I may say, slightly parochial.
Yeah, but they make everything. They make most things abroad. It's very unusual to do it here. So, with the first series, it was quite unusual.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was a nightmare. I don't recommend it. Wasn't it? Bunny worked on it. Bunny did all the colour. It was a bit of a nightmare, wasn't it?
Did you go to China?
Did I want to go? Yeah, I thought I'd get a trip over. No, nothing. I didn't even get to go. Shanghai. They sent some poor bloke over.
What, Tom Ellis?
Yes. Do you know him?
Yeah, they probably just wanted him to go.
Oh, I don't know. They made him go, but I don't know. It was a bit of a that second series. It felt like a bit of a sausage factory. I felt like I wasn't allowed to change my mind. I felt like everyone had been warned about me and Candy's trouble and don't let her change her mind about it. And actually, the way I worked on the first series was a bit like that, but I think you have to be a bit like that.
Yeah.
If you suddenly get an idea or you want to change something, you've got to be allowed to do that.
Well, the first series worked well, didn't it? I mean, but it was a big learning curve for almost everyone on it.
Yeah.
So after the second series of Pond Life, I noticed there was a bit of a gap in the filmography.
There's a lot of big gaps.
Did it really put you off?
Yeah, it really put me off. I didn't ever want to do it again. No.
And then you did.
I tried to come up with ideas for animation, but the thing is, I'd got Pond Life and I could have done loads more. I'd got it all set up and I knew the characters, and I would have liked to have carried on with it in the way that we'd done the first series. I think it was a shame. And I tried to come up with ideas, and they were always like Pond Life in disguise.
Well, that's no sin.
I know, but people would go, oh, it's a bit like Pond Life. I was difficult. I'm a bit funny like that. I mean, I do work hard, but I'm quite lazy as well. We were talking about that before, me and Sarah. I mean, I am quite a bit lazy as well. And I didn't come out thinking, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I sort of rested on my laurels for maybe slightly too long. Saying, I did a series called Pond Life. Now, how long ago? Quite a long time. But you know what I mean? I've had some gaps.
But you said the other day that we might have some good news about Candyguard animations.
Oh, well, I might make a
intimated that there might be something on the way. Can you tell us about that?
Sarah, who does my voices, she runs the course at Preston. And I decided I was going to make a film, and the only way to make it was to say to Sarah, could she book 2 hours in the sound studio at Preston so me and her can do the voices? And she said, oh, what are we recording? I said, well, I haven't quite decided yet. I'm going on Thursday and I still haven't decided.
Well, this is proper
But it's
filmmaking.
going to be really good. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something new, yeah. I want to have a go. I made these films, that Alternative Fringe, in 5 weeks. Why I can't do it if no one's telling me to do it, I don't know. But it is possible. You've just got to it needn't even cost very much. So I think all I need to do is record a soundtrack, all any of us need to do really, if you want to make it in the old style way, get it broken down and just get on with it. It doesn't have to take very long. But if I haven't got someone breathing down my neck, or actually it's more to do with someone actually wanting it, because I think we've all got confidence issues and egos, and I think if someone's asked you to do something, obviously you feel a lot more sort of like teachers waiting, you know.
Well, you have
teacher might give me 9 out of 10.
You have a captive audience here for who I'm sure would very much like to see the product of this next recording session. how about you come and show it here in a few months' time? Is that enough incentive, or would that put you off for life?
No, that's not enough incentive. No, I will try. Yeah, I'll try. Yeah.
Okay.
I will.
Oh, please.
Oh,
I'm emotional now. I'm going.
Yeah.
Not just
I will.
authoritative.
You were going to teach me Flash. You
Oh yeah, no, that offer still stands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't. You shouldn't.
I'm teaching you bad
It
habits.
won't work. Anyway, should we show some more stuff?
Yeah, what would you like to show?
I don't know.
Well, should we have an episode of Pompa, or would you rather not?
Well, I don't mind. What does everyone? Can anyone bear to I was going to say sleep? To sleep through. Can anyone bear to sit through 11 minutes?
Yeah.
What episode? I have got not the actual pilot. No.
It's the one where she's jumping right in the cupboard.
Oh, fantastic! Oh yeah, let's do that.
Oh, I've gone and pressed eject at that exact minute.
Is it too late?
No, not at all. I just pressed eject.
Should we show one more shortish one?
And then show the episode.
Which is the one about
Well,
being
should we have a break
Yeah, let's have a
after
break.
this,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
when we come back, we'll have an episode of Pompa.
And then if you don't want to sit through an 11-minute one, you can just go home.
Okay, which one are we watching?
That's Fatty.
Which one is it?
It's called Fantastic Person.
I think it's really hard to tell.
It is, isn't it? It just goes slightly lighter blue. One more down.
One more.
You're still on alternative.
3 more down.
Am I?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
One more
Fatty
down.
Issues. It's
Oh, I see.
That's it.
Okay, because I got the shine on it. Excellent. Do you mind doing the lights again? Can do to Candy.